State.
What you want to say? All right. All right, we're live. Hey.
We stop smoking so much.
All right. Hello, everybody. As you can see right here, I got my boys. I got Kyle, ED, and my friend Rodney right here, who's next to me. And tonight we're just going to be talking about healing emotional trauma from having an absent father in your life, or if your father was there, just missing things that he could have taught you. So yeah, so I'll start off first. I gave you guys my intro of who I am and how I grew up. So the next question that I'm going to be talking about, I'll just read to you guys the list of questions that I'm going to be going through. He's going to be talking about your experience growing up without a father figure. We're also going to be talking about how did it make you feel without having a dad in your life? Were you lashing out? Were you angry a lot? Did you seek validation from other parties or from other people, or did you hang out with toxic people in general? Also, what we're going to be talking about is when did you realize that you were still hurting from not having a father in your life? How did you heal from that? And then what advice could you give to a younger you if they wanted to know how to move past the pain and the hurt? And then bringing it back to the current, do you feel as if you've moved past the pain, and do you feel as if you moved past the hurt of the emotional scarring? And then how did you do that? So for me, I'm going to go ahead and talk about my experience growing up. I feel like I covered that in the intro too, but for me growing up, I really learned to like suppress my emotions. I was kind of taught at a young age that men shouldn't show emotions. It was weak to show emotions, and that you'll be deemed as less worthy of a man to show emotions. So I was always told, you're the man of the house now. You're the man of the house. Be the man of the house. But nobody really told me what it meant to be the man of the house. So it was a rough learning lesson for me growing up. And I really didn't figure out that I had issues not having a dad in my life until about maybe 3 years ago, or no, maybe about 4 years ago when I started dating my wife. And that's when it really became prevalent, because it's a lot of things that you should know as a man when it comes to relationships and when it comes to a woman, like how to pick a woman, if she's the right woman for you. And then also I was dealing with a lot of issues at work that I really didn't know how to navigate. So just having that father figure in my life to kind of bounce ideas and bounce questions off of and try to, go through that with him is when I really kind of feel that, man, I'm missing a lot. And, I need a lot that I need to learn, but I'm not having that father figure to learn that from. I never remember feeling angry when I was young. I never remember feeling mad or hurt or any kind of emotional distress or anything. I just remember just suppressing my emotions a lot. And 1 second. I just remember suppressing my emotions a lot and just, not talking about it because I didn't want to talk about it, or I didn't know how to talk about it in a sense. Did you? So like I said, I realized that I was dealing with a lot of pain and a lot of suffering, and it took for me healing from it was talking it out with my wife. So I remember, and I told the story about the gravesite in my intro. We went to the grave to visit my dad. I think it was 2017. It was his birthday. We were at the gravesite. We put flowers and everything, and then we were leaving, and I just broke down crying. I didn't know why I was crying, but I was just sitting there crying, and I didn't know what to do or what to say, and yeah, it was just dealing a lot with that. So I talked to Nay about it maybe like a week later because I was crying in front of her, like just like bawling in front of her, and I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to tell her, man, I don't know what happened. And she said it's perfectly fine. She's like, being a man means that you need to be a human being, and being part of being a human being is being emotional, and that's being able to be in tune with your emotions and being able to convey and say when you're feeling hurt, when you're sad, when you're depressed, and just how you feel. And if you don't know how to do that as a man, then there's still some things that you kind of need to learn. And so that's what I really think kind of started my journey on how to deal with the emotions that's inside of me, deal with the pain that I had from not having my dad. And then honestly dealing with that a lot just meant a lot of tears, man. A lot of nights where I just cried, a lot of nights where I just kind of had to go to the place that I didn't want to go to inside of me, and just just let it go and just release it, and being able to move on and just say, this is what it is. This is what I've missed. This is how I come. How can I get better from this, or what can I do to learn? So as of lately, within the past recent years, I rely on these guys a lot. If there's a lot of things that I don't know, then I go to them and I'll ask questions. I go to Dre a lot. I go to ED a lot. I go to Kyle and Rodney, and I'll talk to them a lot. And also I go to my father-in-law. I'll go to Don, or I'll go to Diamond, and it's questions like that, and try to get answers and things like that from them. Advice that I would give to a younger would just be to be true to yourself and to express yourself and express your feelings. And it's not going to make you less of a man. It's not going to make you any weaker as a man. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you, but I find out that not unpacking those emotions at a young age is going to lead up to a lot of buildup and a lot of pain and a lot of hurt. At an older age. So I was 25 or 26, and just now realizing and understanding how to discuss my emotions and how to talk about my emotions, and how to just really have those hard conversations. And so that would be the advice that I would give to a younger me. Do I feel like I've moved past the pain and the hurt? Yeah, I do feel like I've moved past the hurt, the pain. There's some days where I'll still sit, I'll cry, because just missing them, like, I just missed the guy, So I'll cry, but I'm able to move past it. It's not something that's weighing me down. It's not something that I regret talking about. Before, it used to be, if anybody mentioned my dad, or hey, what happened to your dad, or hey, was your dad in your life as a kid, I would kind of shy away from the conversation, or I'd be a little bit embarrassed that I grew up without a father. But now, yeah, my dad passed when I was young. It was rough growing up, and I'm able to talk about it. I'm able to give insight on it and tell people how I feel and what was going through my head and what was processing through my head.
And,
what's up?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you feel that you said you didn't deal with anger like that, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel that was because you knew he passed away and that he didn't choose to not be in your life, or is that because like you were just you were loved tremendously that you didn't have time to be angry?
I feel like it was a mixture of both. When my dad passed away, my brother-in-law stepped up big time, and then I had my sister and I had my nieces and nephews, and I had the church family as well, and it was just a lot of people who would take the time out to try to talk to me, or just to give me a hug, or just stop by and say what's up, or take me out to dinner, or take me out to get food and things like that. Mm-hmm. But I feel like being able to see his last moments, and how the cancer, like he had liver cancer. I think he had stage 4 liver cancer, and just how that took a toll on his body, and what that did to him. Like, it was a lot of closure for me. And I think at the end, my sister Lizzie, she actually had me go up with her to close the casket to him. So that also helped with a lot of closure as well. So I think it was a mixture of both, to answer your question.
Cool.
But yeah, anybody else have any other questions before I start passing it off? No. All right, guys. So yeah, we're gonna start off. Just go around the room, introduce yourself, and then after that, we'll go ahead and get started. And I'll just ask you guys a couple of questions, and then we could go from there. And you could just let the people know how you grew up, some of your experiences, some of the things that you've learned, and kind of just follow the same format that I did. So, Rodney, you want to start off?
All right. Yeah. So my name is Rodney. I'll introduce myself like this since we're talking about fathers. I'm 33 years old. I'm the firstborn. I'm the only boy. It's me, and my dad has 5 daughters. And I have 5 daughters. I got 5 sisters. And for me, growing up, being an only boy, all I wanted to do was my father. But how I grew up was he actually left when I was like 6 or 7. He moved to Arkansas. So I to this day still have contact with my father, but we don't really have a relationship. I talk to him here and there, but we don't have anything in common. So it's a struggle. So my experiences growing up, I really didn't notice that I didn't have my father there. Because the norm for me was that my mom raised me, just like all my male cousins, all my aunties raised them. So the norm was no father in the house. And even with my grandmother, my grandfather wasn't there. So it was okay to see women raising young men and young women. So as a kid, I didn't realize there was anything wrong. But when I was probably like Tim said, 3 years, maybe 5, 6 years ago, I realized I was deep thought one day, like, dang, I missed out a lot on my dad not being there. When I was younger, I played travel basketball, so he would make an effort. He would come to my games when I played in Texas, but the sport that I love, football, he never seen me play. I played during college football, so even to this day, thinking about that, that's something that affects me because he played football. So I'm actually a junior. I share the same name as him. He played wide receiver. I played DB, but even in that conversation, I don't have anything in common. Like, we can't talk about that. So my experience as I look back was I never had a father in the house or a father figure to talk to. So now I'm in my mid 20s and I don't know how to talk to a man. I don't know how to be a man. So I was going to Arkansas in like 2016 to go visit my dad, and I talked to one of my mentors, and I said, "What do I say to him?" I'm at a point where I got all these questions, but I don't know how to word them. I don't know what to say to him. And he said, "Just write down 30 questions." I had 3, so I went out there with 3 questions from him, telling me to write down 30 questions. But those 3 questions were a start. And one of the ones I asked him was, "Why did he leave?" Asking that, whatever he answered, I can hear the him being genuine in his answer, and that was a start for me. So and you got another question because I'm just going right now, but yeah, from experiences as a kid growing up, I had older cousins and they took me under their wing, but they didn't have fathers, so we just learned from each other. We were products of our environment, and even our homeboys and neighbors and everybody else, they didn't have fathers, so the norm was not having a man around, and the men that I did see when I was going to church, they really didn't know how to pour into me or meet me where I was at. They couldn't relate to me. So I was by myself, and what I wanted to be, what I did was what my cousins did. But again, in my mid 20s, I started having questions. I started thinking about things differently, and that's when I realized, like, oh, my father's not here. So how do I get in contact with him? How do I talk to him? That's when I realized, like, dang. What would it be like if father was there? Like, what kind of conversations would I have? How would I have felt with him coming to my football games? What conversations would we would have had? What would he have told me to better my game? How would he tell me to talk to a woman? How would he show me to treat my mom? All those things I missed out, and I'm struggling with to this day because I was never taught. So I can't necessarily blame him because as I learned about him now. It's a similar situation with my grandfather, so it's just passed down. So conversations like this is great because now the curse breaks with me.
Yeah.
And when I have children, they're not going to experience anything that I experienced or that my father experienced. So one of the questions here says, how did I feel or how did I lash out? Was I angry a lot? I don't believe so. I didn't go to any gangs because my father was a gang member. Active one, so it was present, but I didn't have any interest in it. And that's kudos to my mom because she had my interest elsewhere in sport. So I really can't say that I felt any way until I was an adult. And that's where I would start asking questions and start having feelings, and I would say anger, bitterness. But at the same time, I kind of gave him a way out because he wasn't there, and I put more pressure on my mom, and she was there. So that's something that I've been dealing with as well, with just making him accountable because he is the man and he should have been there no matter what happened. Any other next question, Tim? Because I'm gonna just keep going if I'm looking at these questions.
We'll bounce it around.
That's smart.
Anybody want to take reins on it? Or
what's the question?
So it's just going to be an introduction of yourself right now, man. So introduction and talk about your experience growing up without a father figure in your life, and just going to be.
All right, I'm Kyle. I am 25 years old, and my dad was around in my life from the time I was born to I was about I want to say like 8. My mom and my dad split when I was 8, and around that time it was just so much stuff going on. I didn't really know what to think. You know, I'm young, but I'm aware of certain stuff that's happening. I didn't realize how traumatic it was until I grew up later, and I started seeing like how him not being there affected me. I didn't really go through a phase of anger until he stopped coming to see me. So when they were split, my dad would still come and see me, and I'm the only boy too in the house with a whole bunch of women. And eventually I'm like, Pops, I'm gonna sock one of these females. Like, I need you to come. I'm gonna need you to come get me. Like, you know, there's too much estrogen in this house. So when he stopped coming to come get me, that's when I got angry, because I'm like, I felt like he was choosing whatever else over me. But that caused me to kind of start dabbling in me almost joining a gang and me getting involved with, like, you know, stuff early in my age that I should have been involved with. And me and him got cool again when I was around 17, because there were certain men in my life who kind of exposed me to, like, hey man, he's probably dealing with something, that issues from him and his dad having. This is why he don't know how to do it. And the fact that he's probably going through trauma from the divorce alone, you know, that's something that I didn't really know nothing about. I was just so concerned about what I was going through that it took me having to grow up to see it from his perspective. I think the biggest thing that I dealt with was feeling like I caught myself trying to do things that I had no interest in. I wasted time trying to put all this time and effort into these things, trying to feel like I had to get his approval, because then that would make him come back into my life. So to this day, I had desires and interests in other things like music and cooking, but I spent so much time in like sports, you know, and I did enjoy playing sports, but I knew that was never naturally like my passion growing up as a kid. Like, I didn't really care for it. I liked watching it, but I didn't really care for it. And I felt like, oh, maybe if I play sports, like, then my dad will come back and then he'll come to my games and he'll start buying me, you know, cleats and like everybody else's dad is doing. So I spent so much time, and then I carry that habit on still to this day. Like, I had to really have a reality check with myself. Like you grown, you got your own kids, you know, you don't want to pass down that behavior to them. So just because he was absent don't mean he don't love you. So you don't have to try to like earn his approval by trying to be involved in acts, thinking like, okay, this is what's going to, you know, trying to earn his love. Because that's what I felt like I had to do, you know, when he left and he came back. But like Rodney said, I can go on and on about every experience that I went through. But this live will be like 4 hours. So, you know.
So you having kids, and that happened, like you growing up like that. What has that made you change in any way on how you and how you're raising your kids? Are you doing anything differently?
Yeah, of course. It took me having to really because like I said, my parents went through a divorce. So even when my dad was around during that time, he wasn't the best person because he wasn't in the best situation. So I didn't like my dad as a kid. Like, you know, I felt like he didn't like me. I didn't like him. Whenever he would come around, like, oh, party's over. Like, I'm going to my room. Like, I'm closing the door. I don't want to be in trouble. So I didn't really receive too much affection around that time. And it overall, just to not be long-winded, it's just made me more cognizant of making sure I'm good. That way they'll get the best version of me, you know? Yeah. And it's just making sure I'm good so they can get the best version of me, and then making sure I keep everything in order so I can be there for them, so I won't have to go through a divorce or separation, which I've kind of already been through for them, you know, when it's going to affect them, when they actually can't remember it, and it's going to affect them traumatically, and it's going to put bad habits into them, into making bad decisions with their relationships as they get older and stuff like that. So it's just maybe more cognizant of, you know, knowing that, okay, bro, every decision that you make, whether you know it or not, it's going to really affect them. You know, whether you see the immediate result today, or whether you see it, you know, 2 years and or you might not even see it. You know, they might tell you later, like 10 years down the line, like, you know, when you did this, that hurt me, and then there's nothing I can do about it. And there still might be something I might do as a father, because no one's perfect. I'm gonna make mistakes. But like I said, it took me once I got that reality check of, hey, bro, you don't have to earn his love. That even made me a better father, because I'm more graceful with my kids now. Like, you know, and they're young, but I was like hard on them for a little bit, like trying to make sure like they militant almost. And now I'm just like, you know, now that I made my relationship better with him, I'm a better father, you know, just naturally just being comfortable and being me, and letting them know like I'm gonna love you regardless, you know. So that's where it's really made me a better father.
I got a question for you, Kyle. So you said your dad left when you were like 8, and then y'all kind of rekindled that relationship at 17. So for me, during the time that my dad was gone, we talked, but the conversations they were bumped. We talked about nothing.
It was whooped.
How were the conversations during that time? If you can share with us from the time of 18.
Well, I would say like from like 8 to 12, I saw him frequently. So
Okay.
it was, they still were short because I still was like I said, during that 8 years, I didn't like him.
Mm-hmm.
So because I didn't like him, I didn't really have too much to talk to him about, you know. But now that he wasn't around, it was okay. Like, how do I approach him? I don't know really what to say to bro. Like, you know, I don't know if I'm gonna say the wrong thing and I'm gonna be on punishment, or you know, I'm gonna get whooped, or you know. So it took some time, and then once I was finally getting that, I felt comfortable around him. Like, I want to come to your house. I want to see you. And then when that stopped, that's why it hurt more, because I felt like I was getting somewhere. So from the age of like 12 to 17, I didn't talk to him. We didn't talk at all. So he like when I said I didn't talk to him, like he had to come to my school when I got suspended for fighting. So he came and it was like, oh, what's up, bro? Like, okay, yeah, thanks for coming. Like, all right, I'll see you around. Like, as far as like him calling me or anything like that, I didn't. He would text me, I wouldn't respond. Like, it was like no connection because I was like, I don't want nothing to do with you. You know, I took it personal. You know, I took that real. Out of everything else, that was probably one of the most things I took personal. So, like I said, now. Still to this day, I'm building a new relationship with him. And it's refreshing. It's fun. I'm enjoying it. But I was really just having a conversation with my coworker. They're like, bro, like I'm 25 and I'm just now enjoying I made a song or something. My dad's a musician. I made a song and he told me it was dope. And I felt like a kid. I felt like a little kid. Yeah. Like, you know, I'm telling my girl, like, hey, like, you know, I low-key almost got teary-eyed, but I played it off, you know, how to keep it G. I played it off, you know, and I played it off, and I called my sister, like, pops, like, you know, he messing with it, like, he vibing with it, and he even gave me, like, some encouragement and inspiration. Yeah. It was like, the moment I wasn't trying to necessarily seek that approval, he gave it, like, he kind of gave it to me, and I didn't even realize that I always kind of had that void, you know, and it was like I was talking to my girl, like man, like my pops just told me this, and I feel like I'm 25, but I feel like that 8-year-old kid who really just wanted to hear like, good job, son. I like that, but he couldn't give me that at that time because like my pops would come home and go straight to the garage. Like he would come straight to the garage, he'd wake up, take us to school, like good morning, get in the car, let's go. Like, you know, it was just get it done. Like doing not doing the bare minimum, but like I ain't got time to be social because I'm dealing with your mama. You know what I'm saying? She got every little ounce and drop it. And now that I'm older, I like pops, I get it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I got my own in here now. So I know what you was going through. Now, you know? So it's like, you know, but like I said, like I'm just now really getting that relationship that I wanted then, you know. And maybe it's better it worked out that way because now I'm more appreciative of it. And he's more intentional, I'm more intentional. And now I know exactly what I'm going to put into my kids, you know. Yeah. And it's a balance too, because I don't want to operate from my hurt onto them because they never experienced that. You know, so they don't know what that is. So I don't want to, and we know a lot of parents do that, you know, always come at you trying to give you what I never had. It's like, well, I don't even care to want what you never had, you know. So just trying to make sure I don't make those mistakes though, because I'm already gonna make my own, but I don't want to repeat. Like you said, I feel like now that I've had that, like, you know, I'm still healing, but now that I've initiated and we going towards a better place, I'm stopping that cycle, like Rodney said, you know. So
Cool. Thank you, Kyle.
That's good, man.
Definitely.
That's what's up.
ED, brother. You introduce yourself to the world, man.
Yeah. So my name is Eric, or ED. I prefer ED. But I know I'm 30 years old. Just hit the 30. So there's that. I wanted to leave my age out of it, but
full sin.
Yeah, but I'll say just for me, almost similar story. Mine is I definitely did have, or I did talk to my dad at one point in my life. So just even from when I was born, my dad wasn't there. Then I see around the age of 4 or 5. I did meet him, but I didn't know who he was because at the time he was just the dude who cut my hair at the time. So then eventually he did disclose that he was my dad. And me being a young kid, I was like, no, you're not my dad. Don't say that.
Don't say that.
But it turned out, he was telling the truth. And, I wasn't, of course, I was too young to understand anything, whatever the issue was between him and mom or whatever. But I was assuming that as I just let my mom know, like, hey, this guy says he's my dad. What's up with that? And I just knew it at the time. All I did was I stopped seeing that guy. He wasn't cutting my hair anymore. And I haven't seen him since. Me and my dad have a relationship now. I want to say we started it when I was about 22. So typically I was still that same 4 or 5-year-old kid until I met him or until I actually got to talk to him. Because even as a kid, I wasn't young enough to really seek out a personality from him or, really get to know or understand him. He was just, like I said, the guy who cut my hair at the time. So now, when I was 22 and I had to talk to him for the first time, I didn't, just like you guys mentioned before, I didn't know how to talk to him. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know the first thing I wanted to ask him. I had a lot of questions, and a lot of times we don't realize the emotions that it stir up between us because at the start of it, I was just all pounding my chest, just I don't need to talk to him. I don't need to. And that was when I realized that I was angry about it. We kind of keep going through it, just thinking, "Oh, I'm cool. I don't need that. I'm cool. No, I'm out here getting it. I'm out here making it happen. I don't need him." And we just kind of learn to just walk in that straightforward, I'm tough and I can handle it all, mentality. And then it wasn't until someone first told me that my dad was trying to get in contact with me that now all those emotions started to come out because it started off, I didn't want to talk to him. I don't need to talk to him. I'm already a man. It's too late. And I can be honest and say, when I finally did decide to talk to him, it took a lot of people to try to talk me into just saying, hey, just talk to your dad. You need to meet your dad. You need to fulfill that void in your life. And I had the whole script ready to just, I was going to tell him off and everything. He about to hear from me. And honestly, he finally answered. He said, hello. And I was like, hey, this is your son, Eric.
Wow.
And he was like, oh, hey, son. And the first thing I did was just cry. Because I was I had the first time feeling of being able to talk to my dad, to call my dad, and all that anger stuff moved. And I would say that that's really how I healed from it. And I had to actually kind of just face the beast myself, and finally talk to him. And I had to learn a lot about who I was. One thing I was told before was a father gives a boy 2 things in his family, and that's an identity and a purpose. So I went through my life just really trying to figure out who am I.
Yeah.
I'm in my house. My sister, she has a different dad, and then I also had 2 stepbrothers who I grew up with, and then my other sisters, they all got different dads. So I wasn't like everybody in the house growing up or whatever. I had this musical gift, but nobody in the house plays instruments. I also play sports, play football, play basketball, but nobody else in the house plays sports. So it had me feeling kind of like an outcast in my own home because I wasn't like everybody. My mom and them, they kind of act like this. I'm more comedic and I'm more this. So I just went with that question mark on who I am, my identity. And it wasn't really until I talked to my dad and I heard the way he talks and all the crap he talks as soon as I talk about basketball, whatever it is. And I had to realize, man, I'm like that because he's like that. This is where, so you just I kind of went through life just unsure of who I was. So I didn't have that same level of confidence in who I am. And when you don't really have that, you just kind of go through life thinking that you're different, you're weird. You can't really connect, but it wasn't until I talked to him now. I was just like, man, I'm like that because my dad is like that, and I had confirmation in who I am and why I'm always responding the way I respond. I always say the crazy things I say, and how I found out he played drums. He also played football in high school, and now I'm seeing a connection between who I am and all the questions that I grew up with. So I know at the time of being a kid, I wasn't really lashing out or being angry about it because, like I said, you pat yourself on the chest and you're just like, I can handle it. I'm good. And I learned that a lot of those emotions don't really come up until you have to just face the giant.
Yeah.
So now that we did talk and I failed on just trying to go hard and just send him a message, I'm like, well, now he caught me crying. He caught me doing something that a lot of people don't see happen. And now it was a question. It was a question of now, how do I have a relationship with him? Because just like you said, Kyle, it's like I went all this time without ever having to need you. I went all this time without ever having to talk to you. So even though he wanted a relationship, I didn't know how to also put my part into it as well, because I'm like, how do I call him? And if I do call him, what do I talk about? I don't know how to just call someone and just drum up a conversation from somebody I didn't used to have to do that with. So that was the hardest part. And I had to realize that I was affected with it in my relationships with women. Like I knew what not to do, right? But in the same sense, it can be still damaging when you don't know exactly what to do either. So I'm like, yeah, I shouldn't disrespect a woman. I shouldn't push her down the stairs. I shouldn't,
not that
do that. But I didn't know how to love her. I didn't know how to cater to her problem. I didn't know how to really be supportive of everything that she wanted. And even on the back end of that, it's like, all right, when women do give us problems or anything, how do I deal with that? How do I respond to that? If she is pissing me off, how do I now have control of my household, or how do I have control of my relationship without me equally just going back just because I don't have that affirmation in my life? So it gave me a lot of insecurities. Insecurities on who I was, insecurities on what I do. And I would start just thinking like, well, I had to go through life just figuring everything out. So I didn't know much about relationships. So I'm like, well, anytime she's not happy, she's going to want to leave. And that was all I knew about relationships, was that obviously people separate. My mom and dad separated. My mom and my sister's dad separated. So all I knew was separation. So I went into relationships just knowing at some point you're going to leave me. At some point we're going to separate. That was all I knew. And I didn't know how to make sure that didn't happen. I was just now just bouncing around to whatever would teach me. And that was the dangerous part of it, because all it takes is that one wrong influence. And now I'm just kind of broadcasting off of that just because I need something to kind of attach myself. I need something to affirm me right now. I'll go ahead and say the same thing. I'm going to keep going.
But it's crazy that you said, before I back to Ray real quick, it's crazy that you said that you struggle with insecurities and identity. Even me growing up a lot, a big thing was I really didn't know who I was, and I really didn't have that confidence to be who I truly was, because for me, I like video games, I like Yu-Gi-Oh cards, Pokemon things, and stuff like that growing up. like you guys, weirdo, and talking about me and all that stuff, and it's just like I didn't know how to react in that moment, So it was like I was kind of like the weird kid growing up, and then. And it's not now we're like, dang, I could have been myself and been completely happy with it, and not how to care in the world. But I feel like not being able to have that confidence from my dad and just being able son, just be whoever you want to be, and they're gonna accept you wherever you are. It would have been a big difference and a big part. So that is true, man.
Yeah. I'll say it really does. Just like you said, Kyle, when your dad first complimented you on something. I remember somebody asked me the same thing. He's like, what if you would have got done performing a gig for everybody out there? I'm a drummer and I'm a musician. But he's like, what if he's like, what if you'd have got done doing a gig and your dad would have been in the audience to say, son, I'm proud of you. Man, you killed it out there. You did that. He's like, how connected to what you do would have been knowing that your dad was there to affirm that, man, this is your purpose. This is something that you're good at. That would have been something I would have just stayed in because my dad happy, you know, kind of just like you said with doing music, just finding everything to. So it's like when your dad kind of gives you that affirmation, it really holds you to that, and you just push to make that better. To make
you stay with it.
Yeah, you stay with it. You just like, you know what? This is it right here. This is because he's confirming that I have talent here. I have a purpose here. I can actually make this, and I'm not just when I was applying for jobs or when I first started working and everything. None of my jobs lined up with a certain. I started off doing working as a courtesy clerk at Vons. Then I went into sales and I became a sales. Then I was trying to be a musician, and then all of a sudden law enforcement now. So it's like, you know, it's just all these. They're just because I'm looking for that affirmation in my life of what am I good at, you know. And the second it's like, okay, that failed, so I'm gonna try this thing now. Okay, that failed. Now I'm gonna try this thing now. Now I'm just bouncing around to whatever is gonna take me and accept me. Yeah, and, you know, because I don't have that true tracking of.
But ain't that crazy? Because like I went through that same thing, bouncing around, right? And it's crazy how you'll get affirmations from other people.
Yep.
Right. But it's something about your father's affirmation that will breed commitment out of you to something. Like it will make you be like, no, I gotta do this because Pop said, like, you know, if I keep going or if I keep doing this, like, I'll be good at it. Like it's way more impactful when you get that affirmation from your father versus, like, you know, because I'm pretty sure when you got the job at Vons, your mom was like, oh, good job, you got a job, you getting money in your pocket. You like, yeah, but like this, you know, like yeah. It's cool, like, you know, it's cool, like, it is what it is, like, you know. But like, if Pops is like, oh yeah, stay at Vons, you know, they got good benefits or whatever, you like, oh, I'm here, like, you're like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Pops said, I'm at Vons, like, you know, I'm about to own Vons, you know. So
I think this, man, because Kyle, you said it and you said it, Eric. Y'all both are doing things that your dad did, and I know this about myself. I have a lot of his characteristics, even though he wasn't there. Yep. So I think that's what a father is for. So just like when we see commercials and movies where you see kids, they walk in their father's shoes. Yeah, we need to see that. We need to see him do it so that when we do it, we know where we get it from. So like I said, I struggle just like y'all, and this is a gift that I have, whatever it is, or, you know, you playing music, you cooking, but him giving that affirmation, that confirmation, that assurance, like, keep going. And then not only by us doing it, but seeing him do it as well. Like, this is where I get it from, so I know I can do it.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what's up, man.
Brother Dre.
Yeah.
Bishop.
All right.
20 minutes in, he ain't doing nothing.
We need an introduction.
The man himself.
The man of God.
So yeah, Dre, just go on and introduce us to yourself, man. And
so I'm Andre, 35. Let's see, married, 3 kids.
Yes, sir.
You know, where do I start, man? So my mom and my dad, they actually divorced when I was, I think, about 1 or 2. And I don't really remember much of my childhood, you know, when they were together. I just remember, you know, I would ask my grandmother a lot, you know, my grandmother on my father's side, you know, where was he at, you know, and not too many clear answers, you know. It was the typical stuff, you know. I would see him, you know. It wasn't like he was just completely ghost or whatever, but I would see him, you know, here and there, from what I can remember. And then didn't really have like a solid relationship with him until I was 25, maybe like 24, 25. that was probably one of the toughest times in my life, because it made me realize that, one, I had always known that, like, I had other people in my life to where I could, go and learn some stuff, from, whether it was, on my grandmother, on my father's side, on the street, where I could go across the street and learn something from, the guys on the neighborhood, like whatever it was, like working on a car, I'd watch them, change brakes or change oil. I've always been, I guess this has just been God looking out, but because my father wasn't around when I was a kid, he always gave me people, like he placed people in my life to show me different things that I needed that my father didn't give me. And so I never really felt a void from him not being there. It was always like, okay, this is just, my dad's not around. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't like, oh man, like I didn't experience no hurt, but like I said, I think the first time that I like really talked to him, like straight up, was probably about 2000. And I remember just kind of messing up. I went into a dark spot, in my life, just rebelling. I can't necessarily say that it was because I didn't have a father. I think it was just, that just seemed like the cool stuff to do. But I remember talking to him, and he just did. It was like I was just talking to a normal person. It wasn't like, a connection where it was like, you are my dad. Like I was, of course, excited. There was different points in time when my grandmother, would tell me like, oh yeah, your dad's in prison. And she would drive us down there to see him. But it was always just like another person. It wasn't never like I said, that connection, like, oh man, that's my dad. I'm driving down to see my dad. I had my uncles on my mother's side, and like I said, my just people around, man, like that was just always just there, So 2000 hit, and I'm in school, and he pulls up at my school. I remember somebody telling me like, hey, your dad is here looking for you. And I'm like, what? And he pulled up and gave me some money, checked in with me to see if everything was good. And it wasn't weird. It was just like, okay, like what is this for? Because I mean, I didn't have everything, but I definitely wasn't in a spot where I was like wanting for something, So for him to give me the money, I wasn't necessarily in need of money. So I took it. We had a short conversation, and he just bounced, and it was like a couple months later, I found out he got locked up again. And it was just kind of like, in and out, in and out, in and out, like you can't really miss something that wasn't really around, you know what I'm saying? And so I think it was probably about 2001. I learned that he had got shot, and that I remember feeling the feeling of like, man, like something happened to my dad, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it was like like I was worried, like now here this guy is in and out, of my life, but I was worried, I had, my mother had remarried, and I had, a stepfather, put him through hell, if you watching, I'm sorry. And even with that, he did the best that he could do with what he had and what he was shown, I was just choosing to rebel, but learning he got shot, man, and it messed me up. And it wasn't even maybe 2 or 3 months later that I ended up getting shot. And I think that was the wake up moment for me where it was like, I kind of desired to be out in the streets, because nothing seemed like it was working. Like, I didn't understand school. I didn't understand, the normal things of life. I understood, cars and, my friends and drinking alcohol and smoking and, all that stuff. But the important things that men need, you know, I didn't have that, you know. So after getting shot, man, it was just like, man, I got to do something different, because it wasn't nothing that I was just out there pressing a line or like, you know, knocking at the door of the streets. It was just, you know, wrong place at the right time, you know. But I remember hearing from my grandmother that my father was like concerned, you know, and even within hearing that, it was still like, oh man, he's concerned, but there was no connection of like emotion to where I'm like, man, like my dad is concerned about me. It was like, he's just concerned, you know. I would try to go hang out in the neighborhood, and some of the guys be hanging out, be like, nah, hey, this ain't for you, you know, out of respect for my dad, you know. But that just, you know, it did something for me or whatever. It kind of just put me in a place where I was like, man, if you don't figure out something, you know, you're gonna be just like your pops, and what you thinking is like, it ain't really that, you know. But just to fast forward it, you know, I go through life and you know, ups and downs, multiple jobs, you know, doing this one day, doing something else, something, you know, another, you know, year, whatever, get this job. Oh, I don't want to work here, or, you know, and I end up leaving, just no consistency and no direction at all. And so, like 2008, you know, I like, you know, I joined the church early 2000s or whatever, and started getting my life right, you know, and I started dating this girl who was, you know, Michelle, now is my wife. And I wanted to get into law enforcement, you know. Out of all the career paths I could have chose, I chose that, you know. And I remember vividly going up to my dad in the neighborhood, and I was like, hey man, I got to talk to you. And I told him, I said, you know, I really been thinking about going into law enforcement. And he kind of just looked at me, gave me the sideways look, and I said, I understand, let me explain. And I said, I don't have no structure in my life, you know, and I think this is a good move for me, you know. And I'm just letting you know that it's a possibility that I'm gonna be going through, you know, a background check pretty soon. And I just wanted to give you the heads up, you know. I don't know what they're gonna do or anything like that, but I'm gonna step out and see what's up. And he looked me in my face and was like, you can't come over here no more. And I was like, huh? And he's like, yeah, you can't, you know, what you gonna be doing and what I'm doing is you know, it's opposite. So two different, you know, spots in the world, and I got love for you, but I'm not. Yeah, you can't come over here no more. And that is when all of the emotions of not having a father kind of came back, because I was like, this is a moment where, you know, you supposed to be proud. You know what I'm saying? This is a moment where you supposed to be like, hey, you know what? I don't like it, but I support you. You know what I'm saying? Like, but not, don't come over here, because what I'm doing, you know, I'm gonna keep doing, you know. And it was just crazy, man. Like even, you know, after that, you know, I go through, you know, the whole training program and all that stuff. And I proposed to my wife, and I go and I see him again, and he like, hey man, you know, listen, like, you know, he about to press me, like, I thought I told you, don't, you know. But I'm like, look, man, I just came over here to tell you, I just proposed to my girlfriend. She's got an older daughter, you know, and I would love for you to be involved, you know, in whatever comes from this, you know. But if you don't want that, then I can't force it on you. But I would love for you to be involved, to meet, you know, who is going to be my wife and my kids, and whatever, however many kids come after that, you know. And I said, this is the date of the wedding. You know, this is your invitation. I probably won't talk to you again after, you know, today, but you are more than welcome to come. And that was the end of it, you know. But he showed up, man, and that was a proud moment, you know, for me, because not only did he show his strength in the midst of what everybody else had been talking about him and showing, you know, like speaking ill of him or speaking the truth, whatever it was, you know, he showed up in support of me despite of his relationship with other people. And for me, that was honorable, you know. He didn't have a great relationship with, you know, my mother, you know, it's a divorce, you know, they ain't always, you know, clean, you know, but he still showed up, man. And from that point, I remember being at work one day, and I was talking to him, and we just had a real conversation. I just kind of asked him, like, you know, like I played baseball in mid-90s, and I'm like, you know, you showed up to my game, and when I got up to hit, you know, I saw you walking away. Where was you going? And he said, man, I had to go serve somebody. And I was like, well, why you couldn't wait until after I struck out or I hit or something? Like why? And he was like, well, when you commit to something, you commit all of who you are. And I'm like, but you was committing to not even being in my life. And he was like, well, at least I committed to something. And I couldn't even fault him for that, because I'm like, he was just doing, in learning who he was and learning like the family history and all that other stuff outside of what everybody talks about. He was just doing what was shown to him. You know what I'm saying? And at that point, I was like, you know what, man, I could sit here and fault you for what you weren't and for when you weren't, and, you know, the whole 9 yards, or I can just appreciate who you are for just being my dad. You know what I'm saying? Because at that point, I'm married. My wife was pregnant. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I don't really need you for anything. I just want to enjoy your company, you know? And so then it just turned into, hey, Dad, come through. You know, we cooking tonight, come through. You know, or hey, we just hanging out drinking coffee in the garage, come through. And we just start to build that relationship. And I got to see, you know, who he was, you know, behind all the clouds, you know, what other people don't see, you know? Yeah. And it was moments where I had to ask him all them questions that a little boy would want to ask his father. I got to ask those questions. And it was some questions where he knew the answer. And some of the other questions, he was like, son, I don't know that. And I'm not going to tell you that I know it, because I don't. And I'm like, that's honorable. So I could keep going. But we get to the questions, man.
Yeah, I was saying, Dre, one of the key things you brought up was just the understanding. I know when I was coming up, I was kind of coming up led to believe that my dad was the monster.
Yeah,
he was the bad guy. So all that was these negative thoughts, like he's somebody I don't want to be like. He's somebody I shouldn't follow. Somebody I shouldn't talk to. I need to just stay away from him. And you know, everybody has their story, especially because we're kids, so we don't understand life yet. All we know is that. And then it wasn't until I talked to my dad and I had to get his side of it, because there's always two sides of the story. So I had to hear him finally tell me, and the one thing that made me respect it was he didn't, you know, throw my mom under the bus. He was just like, son, I wasn't there. And I tell you, man, it was hard to get your mom to love me again, because I made a mistake. I hurt her in her life. So I can see why she didn't want me around you, because of the things I did, you know, just as you came. And then the way our relationship was, and just like, you know, y'all said, it's like, that's when I understood, oh, wow, you had relationship problems just like I see everybody have. And I had to understand him in that sense. Okay, you just made a mistake going up through life because you had the same problems. You know, your dad wasn't around, or you know, you was finding out relationships, learning how to love and all that stuff. And so you just get that understanding where it's like you kind of have to have that man-to-man talk. Yeah, you have to kind of face that giant where it's like, all right, now I got to ask you the ugly questions. You know, why did you do this? Why did you walk out? Why didn't you come see me? And you know, you got to brace yourself for those answers. But I would ask you, Dre, you mentioned a lot of just not having that emotional connectivity to him. I know exactly what you mean by that. You know, just not having that. You know, I am just talking to another guy because I'm not talking to my father. So I would say, do you think you just kind of viewing him as just another guy, just another person who's concerned, was just kind of a way to kind of shield the hurt that may come up, or shield the emotions that may come up?
You know, I can honestly say that I did not know that I was hurt, because my mother, and at the time, you know, my stepfather, we were always doing something. You know, summertime hit, we were in Reno, or we were in Vegas, or we were always on vacations or a cruise, or, you know, celebrity basketball games, you know, all this stuff. Well, I mean, hey, you know,
well, live your life then. Yeah.
But I didn't know that it was. I don't think it was necessarily a shield. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that, you know, my mother intentionally kept us busy to not, you know, because she just did her thing, you know, honorable position, and just, I mean, did it relentlessly. But I don't think that it was a situation where I'm like, you know, this was just another person, because on my father's side, I had his oldest brother and his youngest brother, you know, and at the time in my life, they were who he should have been, you know, and not one time did they ever bash my dad or put me in some type of situation to where it brought out some type of emotion for him not being there. It was always my Uncle Gino was just like, hey, you know, pull your pants up, always have your clothes ironed, you know, just like your grandma teach you, always do that. It's not how you're supposed to talk to people. You're supposed to address them, sir, ma'am, you know, all this other stuff. You know, my Uncle Keith, he was handy, you know, he's a handy guy. So it's like, you're gonna need to know how to do everything on your car. You know, don't be going and paying nobody for nothing until after you try. You know what I'm saying? Like, change your own brakes, do all this other stuff. So it wasn't, I don't think it was a shield. It was just like, I don't know who you are, you know? Like my oldest brother, he took it a lot harder because he remembered all of that stuff. He remembers the house in Linwood and all of that stuff. But I don't. I never got to experience, oh, this is dad and mom, you know? I never got to experience that. So it was like, all right, you know? And then it was like, any time that I took interest in something, it was always somebody that, like my grandmother on my mother's side always said, you know, if you don't know the answer, never be ashamed to ask a question. And if you don't know how to do something, never be ashamed to ask somebody to show you how to do it. You know what I'm saying? So as you guys know, I mean, I just would go and just sit under older people and just soak up the game of life, you know? So I never had that, like, oh man, like, you know, it was just like, all right, that's my dad, you know? I don't know if that answered your question, but I don't think I intentionally, you know, shielded myself, you know, from emotions. So.
All right. So the next question I want to ask you guys would be, if there's anything that you could ask your father right now, what would it be?
Who's gonna go first?
I'll go first. I you know, my thing is,
I'll be right back.
You said what?
I'll be right back, brother. It's just,
hey, nah, I mean, I already asked my dad, you know, the majority of the questions. So, I didn't, you know, I don't really have an answer or a question to ask him, because our relationship is on point to where I've got access, you know.
Yeah.
I'll go next. I still got a bunch of questions I gotta ask my dad. And that relationship is getting better. And I just gotta keep my foot on his neck, keep asking the questions, regardless if he's uncomfortable or not. But one thing I would ask him is to get more clarity. Do he know that he has daughters that's looking at him, and he has grandchildren that need him, right? And it's beyond what he's been given to us, right?
Yeah.
So he said, I did my best, but is your best, is it really the best? You did your best, and I'm actually, I would, if I could say anything to him, I would tell him thank you for leaving, because I would have been messed up if he would have stayed in my situation. But that would be the question: is do you understand that you have another chance right now with daughters, and with grandchildren now? I'm good because I'm learning, and I'm not holding anything against it. So that would be my question to my dad.
For me, as you guys know that situation, it's kind of, I really don't think it was kind of for me to ask the question, because I kind of got closure from it. Like, my dad passed away from cancer, so it's not much that I really could have asked him. I kind of went to God for closure on that one. But if I was to ask him anything, I think one of the questions that I asked 3 years ago was like, man, why did you have to leave me? Why did you have to drink so much? Didn't you know you had a kid? You had somebody that was looking up to you that needed you to grow up. Like, why did you have to leave me? And so that was the only question that kind of riddled me like 3 or 4 years back, that really like got me emotional, that kind of like shook me up. But it took a lot to kind of get through it and to learn from it. But I was able to get closure from it.
Yeah, I'm just like Dre. Just like Dre. A lot of those questions already, asked. I sat down and just had to talk, because eventually I did address all those questions that I did have. Most of all, like, why didn't you call me? Why you didn't try to do this? And I got a lot of answers out of it. Just in a full understanding of his relationship with my mom at the time was they were both just young, and and just approaching the end of high school and things like that. So, and we all, of course, have been at that point where even in high school we didn't know anything. We thought we knew things. We thought we was grown and things like that, but we didn't really know life. And I just had to, see it as these two were just kids. Just didn't really know anything. If I had to just try to come up with a question, just if he could have that time back, like what would have been his plan B? If he just if he was within the first 6 months of me being born, and he'd say, you know what, I got to make this right. Just to pick his brain about what would have been your plan B to try to, reestablish that relationship, whether it been you to got back with my mom or not. But just what would have been your plans going forward? How would you have handled, circumstances that big?
Yeah.
Wow.
Brother Kyle?
Last but not least. Hurry up.
All right. I think I don't really like recall too many specific questions I asked him. When, as a matter of fact, we did have one conversation. Probably before I moved to Louisiana, we just had one conversation where I asked one question, and he kind of took the initiative to just acknowledge everything that he did. I don't know. I think I asked him I think I started asking more questions about his childhood, because I think that helped me understand, have an understanding of why he did certain things that he did for us. And he exposed how my grandfather was. My grandfather committed to no woman. He was with my grandmother until she said, I want to get married. He was like, well, you got me. I'm busted. I'm out. I'm out. But I think as I go forward, and now as our relationship grows, I catch myself asking him more questions about how he was in fatherhood. because I think I'm catching myself being way more intentional than he was, and trying to be more intentional with making sure. Because I feel like if I would compare, I think I'm parenting more so from a perspective of making sure I don't repeat the curse more so than how he was doing it. So I think those are more the questions I ask him now. I think recently I just asked him, like, you know, what was your toughest moment as a father? You know, and it's probably because I was about to, you know, my 2-year-old was giving me the business. So I was like, man, like, how'd you make it through this toddler stage, dude? Because I'm about ready to put her on Craigslist. You know, you know what I'm saying? Like, she got me. She overcooking my grits. Like, she got me. You know, you know. So. You know, but that's really what it is. Like, I catch myself asking more questions, more so, and it's crazy because as we kind of, like Andre said, we had those people who kind of stepped up in my life, and I catch myself going to them before my dad about certain things about being a man, or like, I know I can go talk to this person about how I should handle this and such with money or property, or I can go talk to this person easier about relationships or something like that, because I built that bond with that person. Now I think my relationship with my father is being more so on like this fatherhood. Like, okay, bro, like, what did you do when this happened? You know, or what were you thinking when this happened? Because as I've grown up, I spent so much time trying to be like my dad, because like they said, they painted this image like he was a monster, and me and him have the same first name. So growing up in a house full of women, they would always be like, you know, they call me KJ, but they would call me Kyle when they was like being petty. So they, you know what I'm saying? Oh, you being Kyle right now. Like, that's it, square up. Like, you know, so it took me a while just to be comfortable with my name. So it's like, okay, Pops, like, when you, like, you know, what were you going through during this time? That way I don't make these same mistakes, you know, like when you was always this frustrated, like, why were you being this frustrated, you know? So yeah, and the fact that he's in a comfortable space in his life, I get to see him be him, which is more refreshing. So more open to being transparent and be like, you know, son, I did this because of A, B, and C. When I was like 17, he couldn't have that conversation. He didn't fully expose why him and my mom got divorced until about 2 years ago. Actually, a year and a half ago. It was like an open conversation. And I'm like, dude, I saw everything. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why are you not telling me, you know? But I think it took him having to just like be comfortable where he was at and knew that I guess me intentionally not talking back to him affected him too, because I'm his only son, you know. So I never thought about my intentional rebellion towards him affected him, you know. So I think once he knew that, like, I'm not like I pop somebody asking these questions so I can be mad, or so I can be like, you know what, F you, I'm out. But it's more so I don't want to repeat this mistake. Like, I don't want to go through, because it's crazy, because I'm just like him, like down to the T, like 2 girls, 1 boy, just how he had it and everything. So I'm like, all right, man, like I don't want to make these same mistakes. So if I'm asking these questions, it's not because I'm trying to remind you what you did, it's so I don't make the same mistake.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you know, you got to go through memory lane, but that's too bad, my nigga. Like, I need that intel. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's good, because he may have to go down memory lane, but you going down memory lane as well.
Yeah, exactly.
We experienced it, so you know, sometimes they don't think about what we experienced. So it's like that part is left out. But I got a question for all of y'all, man. Because one of the questions says talk about your experiences growing up with the father or a father figure. I ain't really have no father figure or no positive male role model. So my question would be, from hearing everybody talk, it's 5 of us here, from age 8 or younger, that's when our fathers left. That's 3rd grade. That's young, right?
Yeah.
So for someone of that age, what would you tell them to look for, or how would you tell them to approach their father, or what should they look for in a father figure?
At the age of 8?
Yeah.
I say love, access, you know, having that relationship to where they know they can just go to their dad and ask them a question talk to them, pick their brain, because I knew at that age I had a creative mind, but I didn't know how to go talk to my dad about it, and I couldn't really talk to nobody. I couldn't talk to my mom about it because my mom was so gung-ho making sure that I just chased stability, because my pops is a musician, so she trying to make sure I'm nothing like him because she, dealing with everything that he dealing with. She dealing with the sacrifices of living with a musician, so she don't want me to be nothing like that. So I think the main things a kid got to look for is to just, have love and that freedom to just go talk to their dad, and just hang with their dad, because I didn't really hang with my dad when I was young. I was around all women, so I think that'll be it. Just that freedom to just be like, dad, like A, B, and C, of course being respectful, but, just knowing that I can, like that freedom. Like me and Eric was talking about a while ago, like having that freedom to just try, go through so many traumatic experiences that it robs us of just trying certain things. So having that freedom and openness to just go talk to your dad. And like now that I have that now, like I call him all the time about everything, like, so.
Yeah. It's very interesting what you said, Kyle. Just
thank you, Bishop.
As far as just on love, man. It's like one thing you touched on was just how you couldn't help but be like him, right?
Yeah.
It's like when you don't see that side of who you are, you're left just trying to, like I said, connect the pieces and just why am I like this? Where's that? Where's all this coming from? How come I'm just I talk like this and I walk like this and I do this? And I had to learn the same thing. I couldn't understand why I was that way, but once I met my dad and I saw who he was and I'm seeing all the similarities, I was like, even without you being there, I'm still just like you. I picked up from you or nothing like that. It was just already in me to be like that. And I would say, just if I had to give my advice to the young people out there, I'll just be like, just really dive in to what's natural to you. Like really kind of do the research and just, like I said, just embrace that. I know like we typically look at it as weird and we try to ask questions and try to figure out that identity of it. But when you're really not tied down to anything, you don't really know what love feels like. And that's how people even walk into games, because it's like, the people who walk into a game will be like, well, they showed me love. They showed me all of that. They did love me. And I thought that them sending me down the street to go make a move on somebody and then saying, you big OG in the hood, man, you just, and that's love to me. That's now I want to do more of this because I'm getting that feeling of love. So I'll just say, they always say, the birds of a feather, right? So you just connect yourself to people that's just like you. I know one thing that helped me from turning, I guess, go down the wrong street was just embrace the fact that I was a musician. So I started just hanging around other musicians and just started seeing how they move, how they work on their craft, and how they make themselves better. And because I was connected to that, it kind of showed me just the atmosphere of people I should be around or whatever. That way I didn't just go off looking for the first thing to embrace me, because that's dangerous. As a kid at that age, you're very you're a sponge. You know what I'm saying? You just soak up whatever comes to you, and you just gotta open. And I would also even just put it even more so on parents as well. And just like I said, like I grew up just knowing my dad's the bad guy, and sometimes that could even, like you said, cause you not to do the things that's kind of bred up in you.
Yeah. Because
you learn to just kind of hate it. Like you look at that as a negative thing now. I shouldn't be a musician because my dad was a musician. And get this, I shouldn't be a football player, a basketball player because my dad was that. And now he's looked at it as this. He walked away from it and chased it and started going after that. So you just kind of stay away from the things of who you are. So I'll just say, just embrace who you are. Embrace the things that you do, embrace the things that come naturally, and then put yourself around those people to help build that about yourself.
I'll go next. If for me, if I could, what I would look for is just somebody who's willing And by willing, I mean somebody who's able to teach you, but who also wants to teach you. It's no point in getting somebody who's able to teach you, but they're not in the right mindset or the right capacity to teach you, because you're gonna come off like, all right, you're annoying me. All right, what are you asking me all these questions for? And that was a big thing for me growing up, is I never want to be a bother to somebody, or I never want to bug anyone, which is why I never really went to a lot of men when I had questions, because like, man, you got your own family, you got everything that you got going on over here. And if I come over here, I feel like I'm just going to be annoying you, and you're going to be like taking away time that you really don't have to teach me something. So, an example of that is like, when I say willing, is like my father-in-law. At first, when we first met, man, we used to butt heads like all the time, and you know, it was just learning who he is and just learning. And we sat down and had a talk, and his man because Dre know, man. So we sat down and had a talk, and his main thing that, you know, he kind of broke it down like, I knew how you grew up. Like, I knew you grew up without a father. And he's like, I'm just trying to make a man out of you. He's like, I just want to make sure that you're being the best man that you could be, not only for yourself, but, you know, for my daughter. Like, you know, you taking care of my daughter. I want to make sure that you're in the right mindset and the right capacity to be a man that can take care of her and to provide for her. So just look for somebody that's willing to teach everything that they know. Right? You know, no questions asked, no issues.
Yeah, man. I think all of what you guys said is on point, but I just to be present, you know, look for somebody that's gonna show up. You know, as men, we got a real big issue with saying we're gonna do something and not following through.
Yeah.
So I think looking back over my life, that has been the driving force of why I do what I do and who I am, you know, with my friends and all that other stuff. Because you tell me you're gonna do something, do it. You tell me you're gonna pull up, you know what I'm saying? Do it. And it shouldn't matter how tired you are, you know what I'm saying? None of that, because for us that do have kids, y'all know, you know, y'all get home, it don't matter.
It don't. It don't.
You gotta be 100%
at all.
You know what I'm saying? Or, you know, it's a done data. But what that does is it shows the people that are looking to you that you can count on them. And so look for people that can show up, you know, that they're a person of their word, you know.
Yeah.
And whatever else you desire, you can seek that out within them. If they have it, cool. If they not, move to the next person.
Yeah.
I'll say to even add to that, Dre, just as you said, I know I didn't mention it, but I have a son. But
yeah,
yeah, shout out to King. Oh yeah, I am a father. I'll say just one thing I just know with my son is just I take pride in him. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I look at him as just, you know, just the legacy. Like, he's just the seed, like literally my seed, and I want to see him grow into, you know, to be amazing. So when you got something, you just that connected to it. You take pride in it. You don't want your kid going out looking busted. You don't want your kid going out, you know, doing something that like hurt them or whatever. And if they are passionate about it, then you just spend time to get them better at, you know, whatever it is that they're into, and you just invest your time. You know what I'm saying? Like time is a big thing to invest. So just as you said, Dre, but also just to try to look for someone who can be that fully invested in you. You know, can really take pride in what you do. They'll see everything that you're going through and say, hey, I want to walk this with you. You know, I want to, you know, go down this road with you. I want to help you be great in this. And, you know, someone who's really going to invest like that into you.
Yeah.
Dre.
I was just asking. I know y'all wanted me to answer it myself. No. So one of the first things when I realized that my father wasn't there, the first thing that came to mind for me was I needed a father, not necessarily my father, but I needed a father, because knowing what my father gave me wasn't good. So I would say that they should seek somebody that's that has standards. So for me, I needed a godly father that has a standard that they live by. that I can go to and ask questions, but also ask me questions to challenge me. And to, like Dre said, to be present, not just there, but there, you know. Ask me questions about my game, ask me questions about my homework, ask me what I like to do, and be interested, you know. Like Tim, if you like video games, ask me questions about video games. I don't have to be average. I don't have to be like everybody else. So I would say look for those things, and look for somebody that you find similarities in, you know. And that's in regards to a father figure. For a father, I would just say whatever that's on the inside of you, just write those questions down and just start asking, because you're gonna have to ask them one day. As you see, we all didn't ask them at one point. So if you can ask them at an early age, you may not understand, but when you do get older, I believe it'll give you that grace to not put a blame or resent your father.
Yeah. So just to wrap up, guys, last question I want to ask you guys, because I know it's a lot of kids out there that really haven't learned how to heal from the emotional scars that they have, or really don't know how to deal with it. So is there any advice, any tips, any pointers that you guys can give on how to just heal from that emotional scarring, or how to heal from that emotional pain? And maybe if you want to tell the story about, or give tips on how you healed from it and how you're able to move past it.
Yeah, well, I can go first. So for me, again, it all boils down to one particular conversation. I was playing phone tag with my dad for about 2 weeks, and I just kept thinking about him. And the question on my mind was, why did you leave when I was a kid? So when I finally asked that question and hearing him answer, it caught him off guard, so he kind of froze, but he answered. And then I wanted to jump down his throat and talk about him, but the first thing that came out of my mouth was, I forgive you. And not only do I forgive you, but forgive me for my thoughts towards you. And immediately at that moment, I felt the weight lift off of me. And that was the beginning of the restoration of our relationship. And so I would say, again, ask that one question, that hard question. Again, like Ed said, you're gonna want to go off on me, but when the moment happens, you that may not happen, but you're gonna have something to say, and ask that question, but be ready and willing to forgive them and be open to rekindling that flame or that relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just say, you just embrace your situation, especially just as it ties into just young men out there. That's one thing I've learned that I have to go through my life doing, is just, be okay with the decisions I make, and just being willing, or being able to confront whatever comes with it. And, basically you make your decisions as man, you live by, how where the pieces fall. So in that sense, like I said, I came up just not wanting to talk to him, not wanting to embrace that, just like, nope, and just keep him over there, and then my life is going to be here. But you gotta face the beast one day, and you gotta ask questions. You gotta fill those voids in your life, because if not, you will spend a lot of your life filling it with other things, and that could be positive or negative. And then you go through life not getting the answers that you are looking for, that you even don't know that you're looking for. And then it causes problems everywhere else in your relationship, in your career, when you're trying to go for jobs, even in your work ethic, as you're trying to commit to something, as you're just trying to find something of who you are, what you do, and things like that. And I didn't know how much that I needed that until someone had to connect the wires of the fact that, you didn't find that comfortability until you talked to your dad, until you actually found out, like, man, this is who I am. This is what I'm about. This is what we do. And yeah, we now I can just call them. Now I've actually went through other things in my adult life. I promise you guys, there's going to be other things that happen in your adult life. Adulthood is something. But
go ahead and testify.
Hold on. But just as even though our relationship didn't really start until I was like 22. We always think, once we get grown, our life is complete and we got everything all figured out, but there's still more to come. And your dad can still play a role, so don't give up on just the timing of it. Even if it is, you have to go 15 years of your life and then still be open to, him coming back, and then open to that relationship starting, because I can promise you, you are going to need it at some point. It is going to make a lot of sense later. I know you guys hear that a lot. I've heard a lot as a kid. Just it'll make sense later, and you're just like, I don't want it to make sense later. I need it to make sense right now. But sometimes you just go through the process of it, and you just got to stay open to it, because then once those questions get filled, it's a feeling that I can't really explain, but I really started to just feel very comfortable and very full in who I am. And now I can call my dad and say, hey, Dad, this happening, man, and then, Job is trying to do this, and he'll tell me how he went through stuff like that. Like, they're still human. They still go through the same adult process that we have. So there's never a wrong time to where you can't, to where you feel like you can't continue to learn from them. They can't continue to pour into you, because my dad still does that. Even with all the mistakes he made in life, all the decisions he made in his life, I still learn a lot from him, where they say, nah, son, like, you gotta, if you get into this, man, because he did wrong. So now he's like, here's how you avoid that. Here's how you do right, just from here on out. So you still need that security and that foundation of yourself, to be able to just lean on that and learn from it and just make sense of life.
For me, at least in these past few years, what I found out that helped me out a lot was just talking about my emotions and just talking to somebody. So for a teenager or teenage me, I would say, even if you don't have a parent or family member, maybe a school guidance counselor, or even if you don't have a school guidance counselor, maybe a journal. Because what I realized is that me not talking about my emotions and talking about my feelings I brought a lot of baggage into whatever relationship I took. So even when I got married or with other friends and things like that, it was a lot of unpacking and a lot of baggage that I had to go through and deal with myself, and realize, like, Janae's not the issue. He's not the issue. I have to deal with my own insecurities. I have to deal with my own, problems that I have, rather than trying to cast the blame off on somebody else. So find somebody who you could talk to and just release all the pain, release all the emotions, and just try to move forward through it like that.
I would say, man, it's kind of interesting because, you just on this podcast, we got people that, have a current relationship, and like Tim, your father is no longer here, and so I was listening to Eric, and I'm like, what about the kids? I mean, we all grew up in the neighborhood or in the inner city and stuff like that. And so we know a lot of people we went to high school with that their fathers were taken from this place when they was, a baby, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I was just thinking, like, how do you heal from that? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you move on, and become that great man when
it never started?
Yeah, pops ain't here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And to that, I just like, for my situation, I just always, like I always had like my brother was always the nail in the hammer, but my thing was always like, I just want to see my dad. I just want to have that relationship. I just want to, oh, that's my dad, like, and it's like, you just gotta, I'm not going to say like, pack up and do your thing, but one, you got to be open to understand, like, and to be able to ask those questions to yourself. Like, if what I'm looking for, like my answers or my questions that I have towards life or towards my father or towards, my mom, whatever the situation, that happened, am I really willing to know the truth about the matter? Because in knowing the truth, I may get hurt. I may get crushed. You know what I'm saying? Like I may be exposed. I may cry. You know what I'm saying? But are you willing to dig that deep within yourself to figure those things out? Because I mean, let's face it, we all agree that we have similar traits of our father. And some of it we can deal without, and some of it ain't nothing we can do about it. You know what I'm saying? But it's like to be able to go deep down inside of yourself, you know, and ask yourself them questions like, why am I this way? Am I okay with being this way? You know what I'm saying? If everybody else, you know, walked away and said, hey, bro, you weird, can I still be all right? You know what I'm saying? Like, and so to be able to heal from something, you gotta keep it all the way 100. You know what I'm saying? Like, and for a young cat, I don't know if that's the question that's geared towards young men. Like, do you want that relationship? Do you really want to know? Because if you really don't want to know, then you're not gonna be honest with yourself. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna go and ask those questions from your auntie, you know, because she had the back seat. You know what I'm saying? Like, she got to see everything from a different angle. You're not gonna ask her, well, what was my dad really like?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so for me, I ask those questions, you know, like, and it comes down to, I can't fault my dad for nothing. I can't, you know what I'm saying? Knowing who he is now and learning from other people, now that I've got the whole story, I can't fault him for anything. Whatever he did is done. And I just want to enjoy him for being my dad.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and if there was never a point where I said, hey, I forgive you, because God had already did that. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't have no, hey, I just need to heal from you. You know, it was, I just want to hang out with you. So
yeah,
it's kind of crazy because you like, well, I was thinking about that, and I'm like, man, what am I healing from? You know, and do I want to know about what happened or not? Because a lot about what happened answers the questions as to who I am. My father didn't finish high school.
How would you? What advice would you
So that probably explains the reason why I could care less about school. You know, my father was a go-getter and a hustler. That probably explains the reason why I don't mind working 2 and 3 jobs to make sure my family is taken care of. But are you going to ask yourself those questions, or go ask the people, or your mom, or your aunties, your uncles? So
yeah,
that's it, man. That's all I got.
I think that's the beauty of this call, though, man, where there is no one right answer, because you never know nobody's circumstances. You know, mine is different than yours, where in the same sense, our fathers probably did the same thing, but I was opposite in certain areas.
Right.
But I still can use what Eric said, or somebody may be able to use what Kyle said. And if we ask, we just be present, we can kind of find out. And again, see, are you willing to do the work to be healed? Because like a broken bone, it hurt to heal.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
It hurt to heal. And I didn't have broken bones in several surgeries. So that process is not easy. So I think that's the next question. Are you willing? Do you really want to know? And if they really want to know, they really want to be healed. All right, I can give you what worked for me. It may be a little altered for you. You may have to change some things, but I can just give you like a blueprint, and then you build the house on it.
Yeah, man. I would say it took me growing up for sure. But outside of me growing up to just have life experience, it took me having to be willing to let go of pain. Having to be willing to let go of pain. I think the key word is just the willingness, like Andre said, just the willingness to let go of pain and then be willing to understand. Because, you know, when you're angry, ain't nothing flying. You know, like somebody can be talking to you think about it, when we hot and we about to knock somebody's head off, somebody can be telling you like the best wisdom, you know. Hey, I don't care about none of that. I don't care about none of that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like having that willingness to understand, and then from that moment, once you understand, you know, then you have the choice. Well, now that you understand, are you going to forgive? And you know, for me, understanding makes it easier to forgive, and then also, I mean, that's all within myself. But when he acknowledged certain stuff, it made it easier to forgive. And then kind of like what Eric said, I realized like I still wanted a relationship with my father. You know, I had to realize that like my dad has been 25, but I'm not 50. You know, like he's been where I'm at. I'm not where he's at. So I still can learn from him. You know, I still can call him. And now that he has there's no pressure. Like I'm grown, so he don't have to pay and stuff for no A, B, and C. Only thing he can give, he tell me today, only thing my job is now is to just advise you. Like I can just give you my foresight on something. And now that he has just that freedom for that, the conversations are way more pure, you know, because he's not responsible for me. So he can really keep it 100. Like, yeah, bro, if you do that, this is what's going to happen. You know, it's not coming back on me no more. So, like you choose to do A, B, and C, you know, do that, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say just to add to that. Now, I ain't preaching that.
Preach.
But like it does, say like seek and you'll find. So I'll just say like just don't be afraid to seek. Don't be afraid to actually go do your homework and and go find out, because sometimes if you think like my situation, like I'm like my mom is still hurt from whatever from everything that happened between her and my dad from years ago since high school. So I'm not gonna really get a good idea of who my dad is from her. Sometimes I might have to go to my grandma, who doesn't have so much emotion in it, and she can tell me, well, actually, your dad was like this, your dad was like that, or I might have to go to my uncle or my auntie and get it from them, because they were also there and they seen it, and they made it. You got to just be willing to keep getting it, because if you only take it from one source, then you're only hearing their side of it and their perspective. It's all anecdotal. It's all based on how they did it. So so now you're taking on their hurt, their pain, and everything. You're using that to make up who your dad is, and that's how we always just see him as a monster. So just always just be willing to do the work and just ask those questions. If you can't get it straight from the source, you can't get it straight from your mom or anything, then figure out who else knows them, and ask those questions of who they are. What was the circumstance between my mom and dad, and get those answers for yourself, and that way you can really make a good decision on who.
Man, bro, that's true, because like that's one thing you got to be careful too. You got to be careful on who you talk to, because if you talking to people who are still, I guess,
you're gonna be whooped.
A casualty of that pain, like they're still hurt, so they're gonna feed you that nonsense to keep you where they at. Like still to this day, my mom is still hurt from my dad. And my pops have been married for almost 20 years. And still cannot say anything about my dad without bringing up something negative.
Yep.
It got to the point like, Mom, I don't want to hear it. Like, what I'm saying? Like, or I don't even talk to her. Like, I could have an exciting conversation with my pops, and I won't even like. Initially, I wanted to go tell like, "Hey, yo," but now I go to my sister or somebody like that, because I know if I go to her, she'll feel a little salty. You know what I'm saying? I can take somebody's healing and their progression going forward, because that's my mom, but that she was married to my dad, so she's hurt. So she. Of course, she wants to see me with I have a relationship with my father, but at the same time, it's the same person that hurt her. So she will always be, having some negative to say, unless she chooses to heal. But if she don't choose to do that, and you choosing to heal, now y'all gotta, it's a conflict of interest at that point. So she gonna, so be careful of that. That's why I would tell somebody, definitely be careful of who you talking to when you trying to get healing. Because if they a casualty, they gonna make sure it's gonna be hard. As you progress, they're gonna pull you back. Yeah,
absolutely.
I think more so I understand that your story is your story.
Yeah.
We do a lot of comparing to, that's kind of society's way. We got to compare our relationships. We got to compare our careers and use that to form up what our idea of whatever that role should be. So because I see everybody on the football team and how they are with their dads, and now my dad should have been this, or I'm seeing this person, their dad is coming to this or doing that for them, picking them up all the time. All right, my dad should be like that. And it would really stop you from not seeing your father as enough. because you're trying to compare it to that person's story. Or, like you said, we all have expressed all the different ways that our fathers weren't there. So it's the same, denominator, but just very, very different on how we came to that. My father is still here. But he has this story between him and my mom. Your dad Kyle was in and out. You had a younger age with your father than I did. With mine. So, I'm not gonna go through and just try to make any more or less of that situation. Just understand, what, this is my story with me and my dad, and this is our relationship. Because sometimes even when the other parents are healing from the hurt, they might not like that you. I remember the first time my mom realized that me and my dad talked and we called.
Yeah.
It was not.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah.
She looked at me as a threat to me and her relationship, and I had to. Now I'm picking sides where it's like, okay, hey mom, no, I'm not talking to dad. Just understand your relationship with dad is your relationship. No matter what the good, bad, and the ugly is, that's your relationship, and how it moves forward from there. Whether y'all choose to move it forward or y'all just choose to close it out and go a separate way. But whatever it is, your story is your story. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to feel insecure about. You just take those and you just keep on rolling with the punches of life. So,
yeah. Well, does anybody have anything else before we get ready to close it?
I'm gonna just piggyback off of what everybody just been saying, and so in talking to my dad and my mom and aunties and siblings, a relationship with our father, I get different stories, but also in observing my father, some things he just won't change. And like Dre said, this is who he is. So knowing that it may be viewed as bad or it may not have been relayed as good to me, but it could be a good quality. Just it wasn't displayed right, Yeah. So looking at what they did in a different perspective, because my family members and my dad's homeboys that I know, they have nothing but good to say about him. But siblings, it's like he wasn't there,
Yeah.
My mom, every time she speaks about him, she speaks highly of him. My grandmother does the same thing, but I'm like, hold on, he did all these things. That ain't good, right? But it could have been good, right? It could be loyalty. It could be looked at it, and depending on how we look at it. So taking that from it, if we can use that perspective of being optimistic with our fathers, even though they, were void for us or whatever the case may be, if that person is still good and they gave us qualities that we can now use in a way that they didn't.
Yeah,
that's very, very, very true. That's like what you're good being evil spoken of, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, even though you have these,
hey, glory.
But you know what I'm saying? It's those good traits that can be used in a positive light. Where I look at my dad, and it's just like, it's like, even though he had his decisions and he left and did this, that, and the other, but he is very committed to the things that he felt passionate about. He felt like he needed to do. So when I always think of myself as this go-getter mentality, once I choose something, I commit to it, I shoot for it, and it's hard to say. I have that loyalty to what I do. I appreciate my craft and what I do to that extent. So I'm just going to give it my all. I'm going to always be practicing for this. I'm going to always be training for that. I'm going to always be trying to be better than the next. And I have that competitive nature. And I had to see that my dad was like that. That's why he chased things so hard. So and then he leads back to that understanding where he's just like, man, I see why you kind of went there, and I see why you so. I see why it was hard to walk away from. Because if I was in that same situation, I would have done that same thing. If I believed in myself to do it, then I would have followed it that beat. Especially if I wasn't ready for this or wasn't ready for that, or this situation was to arise. But I'm like, yeah, my dad is committed, and like you said, everybody else seen it as the hurt. They seen the hurt that resulted from it. So now I got to just see the silver lining in it to say, you know what. Even though this was how this made other people feel, and he made this decision, but he's that go-getter. He's that person that stays committed, just like I am. So, yeah, finding that good.
Boom.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate all of you guys. Thank you for taking the time out to come and hang with me and talk. Thank
Hey, good job, Tim.
you, man. Thank you.
Good job, Tim.
Definitely look forward to having you guys on in the future, man. There's going to be a lot more topics that we're going to be talking about, and I would love to continue this going, man. Love y'all, man.
He's gonna end like that.
Just to turn the live off, nigga. We can stay on. Like,